community. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed that super random song. Bonus points to anyone that can tell me what that was, because that was a new one for me. But just super excited to kick off with you all and hopefully provide you with some clarity for our year as we kick off remote school. So this is just kind of a light start, but certainly for me as a parent, I have had lots of feelings. I'm still in negotiations with DPS on what ECE looks like for my children next year. So we're all in this together. And it certainly is going to be an adventure. Yes, okay, tomorrow never knows. Y'all are on it. Thank you. And Stephen, impressed by that Beatles knowledge. So we will have question and answer time at the end of this. We have erred on the side of giving you a lot of information tonight, knowing that frankly, there is a lot of information to give. There are lots of things that are new. And we are also recording this. So if you get lost in that and you want to come back to it, we will have the link to the recording out in our family newsletter tomorrow. And we also do have translation. And so that number has been posted into the chat if you would like Spanish interpretation tonight. So top of mind right now for everyone, I'm sure, is just what does school look like this year with COVID-19 as we move into the fall. And I want to just start with this kind of warning that we are presenting everything as we know it right now. And we hope that that is the way that things will be at least through mid-October. And things are changing rapidly. There is something almost every day on our end that changes that we're adjusting to, and our commitment to you is to just be in communication so that you are on top of those changes as they happen with us. And truthfully, we're hoping that by the time we start next week, there won't be a whole lot of them, at least as it pertains to eSchool. So I'm going to do a little intro here into just eSchool. We're then going to hear from Scott Franzlau on our kind of logistics, dates and schedules, and student engagement. Stephen Menduk is here to talk to us about academics. Amy Green will be speaking to our special services, and Cassidy Greif to activities and athletics, and then we will have time for Q&A. So again, we're going to move through a lot of information relatively quickly tonight, and then do want to have space for you all to ask questions as well. So in case you don't know me yet, my name is Ellen Curry. I am our school director for our 612 campus. I put a little bit about me here. My husband Kevin and I are up on the top left there. He is definitely a partner in this work, especially as we have navigated taking care of our children together. My daughter Jane is just turned 4, is in the middle, and Ruth is over on the right. I also love animals, and 2 of my 8 current pets are pictured on the bottom there. And then Franz and I are actually on the bottom left at our first graduation ceremony this past spring, which is certainly something that feels like a pretty important benchmark for our campus and was just like a wonderful thing for me as a human being, and I will not soon forget it. So what is eSchool? What does this all mean? Ultimately, our mission has not changed. So this mission of ending or eliminating educational inequity and really transforming urban public education is still our promise to you, and that is a commitment that we are holding to even more now than ever. And we will prepare students for success long-term as we continue to be the best. I think eSchool is going to be a really new space, and I have no doubt that Byers and DSST will do it better than anybody else, which will make sure that your kids are set up to be their best long-term. I do think it's important for us to point out some differences between what eSchool looked for us last spring and what it's going to look like now. And frankly, last spring was very experimental. It came up on us very quickly, and we learned a lot. One of the main things we learned is that asynchronous classes are not setting kids up for the most success. So one of the big differences this year is that students will engage in a day-long synchronous schedule where they will go and be directly taught by teachers across the day and receive daily assignments and things like that that mirror what our kind of traditional school looks like. In the spring, we talked about kind of optional participation and letting students opt in, and we will be asking students to participate and expect their participation using a lot of new features both within Teams and a lot of new technology that exists for us this year. In the spring, we had modules that students received at the beginning of the week and had end of week deadlines. And again, we are no longer doing that asynchronous approach. Students will receive and complete classwork on a day-to-day basis and be in sync with their teachers daily. And then the spring was also the end of our year. We really focused on review and didn't really put a ton of new content in. And as we move into the fall, it is obviously a new year. And so we will be doing brand new content and plan to maintain the support systems, although they'll look slightly different, that we've traditionally had to make sure that students are getting what they need to learn it. Those are just some key differences that I think are important to highlight, because I think there were great things about the way we approached the spring, and certainly some big lessons learned for us as we embark in eSchool again this fall. Big picture, this will not be easy, but I think we are going to have a lot of fun, and we've certainly had a lot of fun planning eSchool, and we got this. I have no doubt that we are going to do a great job, and that our promise to you as families and our promise to students has not changed. And I put these affirmations in here because I think that's something that's going to be important, both as parents and students and educators, is like, we are not going to control everything in this space. And there are going to be lots of things that are unpredictable that happen. And we are in it together. And we need to give each other the grace to learn through it. And really also give each other the feedback to learn and make it better as quickly as we can, because it's going to be really important for kids. So welcome. Thank you all for being here tonight. Just excited to move forward with you in this space, and truly think we're going to do great things this year. I'm going to pass it over to Franz.
Hello. So I'm going to actually cover two topics, operations and student engagement. But first, just a little bit about me in case we have not yet met. I am a proud parent of two boys over there on the left. I'm not much of a fisherman, but I did start this summer. And we actually, a highlight of our past year, frankly, has been we did do a road trip this summer and got to do some of our favorite things, safe and socially distantly. And came back all ready for this big year. When I'm not at DSST Byers, I'm a pretty serious carpenter and gardener. And right now I'm really proud of my corn, which is about 8 feet tall, and I'm really happy with it. Also, I just want to say that just to start the year, or just to see the participant list growing and how many people are here on this call, how exciting that is for us. I can assure you that you have all been in our thoughts and hearts since the year ended back in June, and a lot of planning went into everything we're about to share and the questions we're about to answer. But it's great to see that you're here on this call. Thanks for taking the time. Want to highlight our operations team, which you have probably interacted with in the last week. If you're one of the 950 people who have picked up a laptop, it's largely due to the efforts of these three amazing women. And so just in case you haven't met them, this is a face to the name. And of course, their email addresses are here. And they're such a huge part of our team and what I'm about to share. This year, we started and tried. You certainly remember, if you're part of us last year, that we shifted mid-year to a different system. There's no shift this year. This is our system. It is absolutely a wonderful program for translation, for convenience, and for bundling all the communications that we're going to do as a school to you. This doesn't entirely replace some of the communications that you'll have with your advisor or school staff that could still happen through other methods. But we are well established as of today. 85% of families are verified for this year. So we're ready to go. And please, like if you have a friend, I'll say this a few more times, if you have a friend or anyone you know who's part of our school community, just please ask them, hey, have you verified for Flyer yet? That'll really help us get to 100%. And then you have two options always. You could always download the app or choose to read through email only. Make that choice for yourself. I just highlighted, we actually got to 950 after 2 p.m., but 87% of our laptops were handed out last week, which is incredible, and reflected today in our new Student Academy attendance being really strong, and students being able to do the next challenge, which is logging into their class and all the other fun tech things that come up. But getting your computer is the first thing. Again, if you know any other families that you're close with in our school community, please ask them if they've gone, because we have 3 more days of makeup times this week so that students can have their laptop in time for Monday, which is our big first day. So this week's times are 11 to 3, and it's in that big north parking lot in the Fab Lab, where the big garage is off South Washington Street. What's probably also on your mind is that we do have more than laptop supplies in any given year. And it would have been impossible for us to get all of that, truly impossible for us to get all of our content supplies ready in time for tech pickup, and just wouldn't have been possible. So we have dates that are coming up in 2 weeks, Thursday, September 3rd and Friday, September 4th. We will send home more details, and we will be as intentional as possible to make that as comprehensive as it can be, out of respect for your time, out of respect for trying to keep things as safe and socially distant as possible and minimizing big contact points in our community. So those are the dates, and Bailey Manning will be sending home more information about that coming soon. We're a few days away from our first day, and so just two key things here. We're using the same start times for the first day of school as the rest of the year. Middle school 8:15, high school 8:30, and Teams is still our #1 way to access our time together. And so that icon is the same one if you're new to our community. Students that practice it today in New Student Academy, students must be logged into Microsoft Teams for us to call them in or for them to find their class. And that's the most important thing to know for Monday. We have a special schedule, an alternate schedule, the first 3 days of school, and it as such. The day is a little bit shorter with prioritized time for conference appointments, which I'll talk about in a second. You'll see that it's 8:15 to 12 all 3 days. So it's easy to remember for the first 3 days, and then Thursday is the first full day that will go into our full schedule day. What are we focusing on in the first 3 days? It's these three things. Relationships are more important now than ever, or just as important, but harder to do. And so we're thinking thoughtfully about how to introduce our students to their teachers and how students can build community, both in their advisory and in their classrooms, and their relationships to their teachers and to everyone else. Every student will get to go to at least every class once. And then of course, we are expecting just the normal hiccups that you get from technology to occur. So those are the things we're working on and helping students navigate that. One-to-one conferences, really importantly, are intended to truly be just advisor and student. So it's not a family conference by intention. It's really trying to compensate for that lack of interaction time that we're going to have in person. And so the goals are for advisor and student to build a trusting relationship, get to know your child better, and to start hopefully a year-long transformational relationship for both advisor and advisee. All right, a few things on student engagement. Really importantly, our advisory structure is as important as ever, and it's really broken into these three things: daily group time, periodic one-to-one check-ins, which we're starting strong with, and then parent communication, as always, is largely through the advisor. We did hear your feedback and have a commitment to send out individualized progress reports once every 2 weeks, so that parents can know and not fall behind on knowing where their child's at and where they're progressing, even though it's in virtual schooling. So similar to that graphic Ellen showed earlier, things shifting back to closer to normal in terms of our cadences in some areas. And this is the team that I have the honor to lead. When it's not your advisor, it's likely often like the dean that you're interacting with, whether it's the dean sending you whole grade level communications or just helping you work through things that come up during the year. And so in addition to being associate school director, I also serve as the 7th grade dean. So I'll be there with the 7th grade families and Katie Etheridge and Dan Monahan. Katie's been with our school for 7 years now, I think. And Dan Monahan is a brand new staff member from Chicago, coming from the Noble Network. And he's an excellent addition to our school community. And I'm really excited for our 8th grade families to meet him. We have 10 clear common classroom expectations, which will be updated on our website. And we absolutely want you as a family to know them and understand them. So you could be part of understanding how to support your child and just know what's expected of them. I'm going to go through a few of them now. So, or this isn't one of them, but we'll go through this first. So first, there's just an update in college prep. College prep is not the same as it was in regular school, but we're bringing back a version of it. And the short of it is that you will get a weekly notification about that your child has missed one or more assignments, so you could stay up on things and not fall behind. And there is going to be a relational communication between advisor and advisee that will be served to problem solve and prevent future missed work. So it's a different version of a college prep with some of the same systems involved. Mandatory tutoring is going to be back in a few weeks. We actually this year also have an opportunity on Wednesdays to do some of the things that we've traditionally done in mandatory tutoring. So we're really excited to see how that rolls out, and then add in mandatory tutoring soon in September. And how we're going to notify parents, that's to be determined and coming soon. And there is no equivalent refocus in virtual schooling. We have intentionality around how we're going to handle conflict and incidents, but nothing similar to refocus. There will be no notifications coming home with refocus at all. Just to repeat what Ellen said about attendance, it is now expected that attendance is synchronous. Students will have scheduled times, as you know, and be expected to be on time, and we will be using our systems of Infinite Campus to track that. There will be alerts and messages to be determined, sent home to you so that you also can know if your child's doing what you expected them to do, or if things were unexpected. And we'll have systems like monitoring practice and participation that'll give you feedback on how your child is participating in class. But we're really excited to go deeper with e-schooling with these common expectations of synchronicity and participation expected. There's no uniform for remote school in middle school, so that's different. And then our uniform is our expectations are pretty blunt. So warning, Ellen, if you would just share, like, you have to cover your private parts. And other than that, from our homes through our computers to your homes, we need students to be covered, but we are not going to micromanage what they're covered with, other than it being school appropriate and covering the obvious necessary things that they need to cover. So we're excited to release the responsibility to students and are not worried about that at all. Another expectation that is really important, going along with synchronized classrooms, is the idea that there are times in class, not all the times, but times in class where students' cameras are expected to be on. Right now, we're envisioning that as the beginning of class, so that a teacher can continue to get to know students without cameras on. I can tell you today from New Student Academy, teaching students who turned their camera on in the beginning and who didn't until later, I just had no idea who they were. You need to turn your camera on to get to know another student, and that's the basis of education. It starts with a relationship. And then there will be a time where a teacher plans to have the camera on for some educational purpose. And either of these times, a student can always say, I can't right now because, and just tell their teacher why, or follow up after. And teachers will just use discretion and inherently just give students the benefit of the doubt when they ask to not have their camera on. How will you know your child's doing? There'll be some form of daily attendance notification, TBD, coming soon. There will be an ability for parents to monitor Google Classroom, more information on that coming soon. And then, of course, advisory specific communications, as well as getting the college prep notifications, and of course, the all-important parent portal. And last, one of the reflections that we did starting in June, when we did a few phone calls, we read through all the feedback from the spring, we looked at all student performance, is that we know, and I know this as a parent as well, that partnering with parents is going to make the difference between having a good and a great virtual school experience. So if you have topics that you want support in, or you have solutions that you want to share to other parents, please email me, as I'm going to organize some parent workshops and hopefully continue this dialogue in other formats so that we can help ourselves in this process. Thank you so much.
All right, y'all. Well, I am Stephen Menduke. I am our Associate School Director of Instruction. I'm really excited to be able to be here tonight, at least virtually, with all of you. I'm definitely bummed that we're not in person, but really excited to be able to talk a little bit about curriculum, homework, and grading this evening. I think three things that are front of mind for a lot of our students, and without any doubt, a lot of our families as well. So before I jump into that, this is just a little bit about me. I am now in my second year living in Colorado and being at Byers. I'm from Los Angeles originally and went to school in San Diego. There's a couple pictures there. I love the beach and miss that beach dearly, but Colorado is great as well. I love to golf, and that's a picture of a golf course up in Palm Springs that I've been to a bunch of times that I really love as well. My dogs there, Judge and Jeter. named after some Yankee greats, and that's my wife, Crystal, and she is also in education. She's the director of special education for the Strive Charter Network here in Denver. So like I said, today we'll talk mainly about these three topics. We could talk about instruction for hours and hours, but we are just going to talk about these three main pieces. We'll start off with some curriculum. So curriculum, I think one thing that really stands out is, as a difference, is in the spring, much of our curriculum decisions were made at the home office level, and our teachers really just executed on that curriculum. One change that I'm really excited about this year at the Byers level is that we have such amazing teachers, and that's not to say that the rest of the network does not, but our teachers at Byers are incredible. And we have so much more freedom this year at the campus level to let our teachers really dig into their curriculums. It's going to be great for one-to-one connection between our teachers and their students. And it's also going to be really great in terms of personalized lessons for things that our students at Byers are most interested in, and not so much a one lesson across the network setting. So really excited about that. We do have a new curriculum that was given to us through the home office called Reading Reconsidered. And that is what our middle school English language arts classes will be undertaking this year. Although this is not something that is owned specifically by our teachers, it is a great program. It's really focused on knowledge building, it's novel centered, and it's writing intensive. And this is going to really do well to prepare our students to take AP level classes in English language arts at the high school level. And the last piece that Scott Franzblau was talking about a little bit was the synchronous style of learning that's going to take place this year. All teachers have been given the recommendation to have a synergy between synchronous and asynchronous learning during their class time. So students will not be expected to be listening to a lecture for 50 minutes or for 70 minutes. They will be chunked and they will have tons of opportunities to collaborate with their peers, which we think is just extremely important. Next up, homework. So I think one thing I want to really hammer home here is that rigor is just as important now as it has ever been in our eyes as the leaders of Byers. And I think our teachers would say the exact same thing. They want to make sure their classes are rigorous. So we are going to have a high bar, and we are going to have a different bar. And that high bar is going to be accomplished most of the time during the class periods. For the majority of our classes this year, we are going to stray away from assigning hours worth of homework because we know that looking at a screen all day for us as adults is really hard. And for a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old, it's probably even a lot harder. They also need time for video games at the end of the day, right? So I think it's really important that we are finding an appropriate balance of screen time. Having said that, literacy, social studies, or history will have, on average, just about 30 minutes a night. And I say on average because there are some nights where that may be 30 minutes, and there are some nights where that may be 0 minutes. So I think the main takeaway here is we are trying to have a style of homework during remote learning that is targeted by need rather than a one-size-fits-all approach. Meaning that if I'm teaching a literacy class and I realize that 2 or 3 students need a little bit of extra practice or a little bit of extra reading, I could assign that to just those 2 or 3 students, and that does not need to be for the 30 students in my classroom. There's also room for flexibility in this protocol that we've come up with. If I'm a math or a science teacher, I'm clearly not listed here as a class that could give homework. And at the same time, I could work with my coach if I think that, hey, my class really needs some extra practice in this math strategy or in this science content, then I'm going to be able to assign some of that homework, and I'll work collaboratively with my coach and other members of my team to make sure that the homework load is not too heavy on any given night. And the last piece here, grading. I think that first bullet point really is the point that I want to get across this evening. Grading is definitely important. And when we look at making sure our students are competitive as we move and transition from middle school to high school to college and beyond, grades are important. I would say now more than ever, they are not the most important thing. This year, all of our teachers are being trained in social emotional well-being and trauma-informed practices, knowing that there are tons of extenuating circumstances that are affecting our families as well as our staff right now. The learning is going to happen. I have no doubt that the learning is going to happen. Our instructional staff is incredible. The grades will take care of themselves. The learning will happen. This year, as compared to our spring trimester, we have a much heavier emphasis on proficiency, where in the spring, really most of the grade was based on just general participation. We have about double the amount of weight assigned to proficiency this upcoming school year. Like I said, my name is Stephen Menduke. I am our Associate School Director of Instruction. Just really honored and excited to be here to serve our students and all of you. So thank you for being here. My email is here. It will also be at the end of our slide deck if you have any questions.
All right, my name is Amy Green, and I'm here to talk about our special services today. Just really quickly about me, I'm the Director of Special Services. I graduated from the University for many years before I became an instructional coach, and this is my 6th year at Byers. You can see my beautiful family, my husband and I hiking, which is one of our favorite. My daughter, trivia fact, was born on the first day of our high school, and now she's 4, and it's just the other day. And then I love my pets, and they are goofy and crazy. I'd love to introduce you to some of our team. So my specific role on our Exceptional Learners team is around our multilingual learner programming. So in other places that might be learners, I call it multilingual learner because we believe it is more asset-based. Ashley Morris-Hobbs is our Director of Mental Health, and she directs our mental health services and our Section 504 programming. On the next slide, we have Stephanie Wise, who is a Director of and she specifically works with special education case management and our cross-categorical programming. And Andy Glasgow is also a Director of Curriculum and Instruction for Intervention, and he specializes in special education instruction and intervention practices. So I want to ensure that we have been spending our summer getting prepared for our exceptional learners. We gave all of our teaching staff 13+ hours of professional development to ensure that they not only knew the best practices, but also that they were ready to support your individual students. So we've reviewed all of the plans and where they've come from so that teachers feel really prepared from day one and know how to support students and know, want to build those connections. We are really committed to learning from the Try3 experiences that you all shared. Scott shared that we did a bunch of interviews and heard from families and looked into that data about what was working for families and what wasn't working for families. And so we're hoping some of the changes that we've made based on that feedback are going to really help to ensure that that environment is much stronger and supportive of you all. So in general for our programming, just as a review of our kind of overview of programming for special education and cross-categorical, DSST Byers operates with an inclusion first model. And so just like in in-person learning, inside the gen ed classroom, that will look like accommodated or modified materials, co-taught. Outside, they also may receive outside of gen ed services, and that would look like individualized instruction. All IEPs will continue to be served to the greatest extent possible, even through remote learning. Our multilingual learner programming, or again, in many places called our English language learner programming, we serve multilingual learners in all of our classrooms. All of our teachers are certified to be able to support multilingual learners or are in the process of getting a 2-year training. And all of our teachers receive feedback on best practices from their coaches. Small change for our English language development program for this year. The majority of our multilingual learners will be served in their social studies classes instead of a pull-out course. And we're really excited about this adjustment, and definitely reach out if you have questions about that. For gifted and talented, advisors manage their advanced learning plan goals with input from our gifted and talented lead, who is content teachers. And advanced learning plan goals will continue to focus around passion areas to really increase engagement, along with social emotional skills as discussed with the advisor. Finally, for section 504 plans in all of our classes. And again, our teachers have looked into and understand the students' 504 plans, and deans are also available to support students with monitoring their 504 plans. Families and students with 504 plans can expect to receive communication about their students' 504 plans in remote learning by September 4th. If this is bringing up individual questions for you about your own student's plan or more specifics about programming, I did just want to list again. So I'm the person to reach out to for multilingual learners and gifted and talented services. Ashley Morse-Hobbs will be able to support you with 504 or mental health services. Stephanie Wise will be able to support with any cross-categorical programming, and Andy Glasgow will be able to support with mild mod special education programming.
You want to, yeah, go over to the next slide. Thanks, Amy. Appreciate it. Hello, Falcons. My name's Cassidy Greif. I'm the Athletic Director, Activities Director at DSST Byers Middle School and High School. Even though my role this year is a little bit different, I'm actually teaching some high school PE, and I am an advisor for the first time probably in, I don't know, 6 years. So I'm pretty excited about that. But just to give a quick update on athletics and after school clubs. Basically, at this point, DSST Public Schools as a network, not specifically Byers, or it's not school by school, it's the actual network, has decided to make the decision to suspend all middle school athletics kind of until further notice. And that really is in conjunction with the Colorado High School Athletic Association. So they, for the most part, have kind of suspended most athletics until January 2021. And really what we're committing to at the moment is the schools. I'm kind of, you know, one of the few people who are in charge of kind of the DSST Middle School League. And we really are committed to looking at creative ways to bring something that resembles athletics back, you know, in 2021. So we're going to get creative with that. We are committed to making it work as long as it's safe and as long as it falls within the Colorado Health public guidelines. We really do want to, and every single person, every single admin at Byers really understands the importance of athletics and physical activity. And so I know that they 100% support that, and we're just going to kind of take it day by day. I will say, please still continue to register your students for athletics through Team Snap. That link is sent through the newsletter. I'll probably send it out to students the next couple of weeks, you know, a couple times a week. That is really where I send all the communication through for athletics. So I don't do like school-wide emails. I try to narrow it down to people who are just registered for athletics. And that's where we will put information about when tryouts might be, or if games get added. That's where all that stuff will be. So make sure you still are registering for athletics, even though sports aren't going to happen at the earliest until January. One more slide, we'll talk about clubs real quick. So the other great news is that we are fully committed to offering after school clubs, or even, you know, during lunch, but they will start virtually. We're going to use a combination of Microsoft Teams and Google Classroom, just like they would be in their classes throughout the day. They will be run by teachers. You know, we're kind of still talking with home office about how can we bring in parents to possibly lead after school clubs. But there are some hurdles to leap there as far as technology, access, all of that good stuff. So kind of, if you're interested, if you're a parent who says, I want to lead a club, we're hoping that there will be an avenue for that, but we do have to kind of leap some hurdles first. So the club proposal form, which is basically where your students can say, I want to start a club, that was sent out on Monday. And so that's another reason why it's super important to make sure your laptop is up and running and you're checking emails and all that good stuff. Those proposals will just be kind of accepted and approved on a rolling basis. Club registration will be sent out next week, basically with the clubs that we've approved so far, and your students can start signing up for those clubs. It'll just be a Google Doc. Once they submit the registration form, there'll be a Google code that pops up and they can join that Google Classroom that will kind of have the schedule and everything for their club. And then the goal right now is that those clubs will start the week of September 7th. So kind of when we get back from Labor Day. So that's kind of the short and sweet of what we're doing for athletics. I know I will put in a plug that Miss Barton, middle school PE teacher, is also amazing and wonderful and is fully committed to making sure that your students are up and moving throughout the day. And so I'm not at all concerned necessarily from that standpoint that your students will not have the opportunity to kind of engage physically. But as far as athletics is concerned, we're going to kind of put the pause on it and wait, and then, but definitely get your kids engaged in clubs, and we'll send out more information when we have it. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you to everyone who shared and for you all for kind of sticking with us through a deluge of information. Hopefully you learned something or got something clarified that is helping you feel more confident as we move into school next week. As always, you can follow us on social media, both at the network and school level, where we push out lots of notifications about things that are happening kind of in the moment, and particularly on our Byers site, lots of joyful things. So as we start the year, it's a good place to just kind of peek in and be able to see some of the joyful things that are happening, and then talk about that with your kids who may tell you that nothing happened at school, which my 4-year-old already does. So, you know, it's an adventure, parenting. We are going to move into question and answer. And so if you have broad questions, please feel free to frame those either in the chat, or I believe you should be able to unmute yourselves. I will just name that we only use Zoom for these town halls, and I am not a Zoom professional. And so if there's things we're doing that are clunky, it's just we are on Teams all the time, except for town hall spaces, and then we're on Zoom. So I believe there may be a space where you can actually directly ask a question. I don't know if we totally got that set up for you tonight, because I also don't host the meeting, so it's a little bit funky. But if you are able to just directly ask a question through that, please go ahead and do that, and we will respond to you directly. Otherwise, feel free to post questions into the chat, and then we can answer them a whole group, or if you're able to unmute, feel free to ask questions out loud as well. Franz, I'm seeing a question come in around school supplies. Would you like to answer that question?
You know, normally I do have a lot to say on school supplies. This year I don't as much. Stephen, do you want to add anything here? If not, I'll have to follow up with you. I'll write your name down and get back to you.
Yeah, I do know that our ops team has been reaching out to the various house teams to collect general school supply requests, but in general, it's really going to be largely done with the content supplies that will come out in a few weeks, and the technology that has been picked up over the last week and can continue to be picked up this week. There may be a few things here and there, but that will come out and there'll be ample time to make sure you get those. But yeah, I would say maybe reaching out to your student's advisor sometime in the next week would probably be the best suggestion.
This just in, also virtual supply lists are on our website as well. Miraculously, a birdie heard that question and helped me with that. So please look at the website. You should be able to find virtual school supply websites through the website.
I could answer that next question around students being logged in from 8:15 to the end of the school day. Students do have breaks built in throughout the day. They're roughly about 10 minutes between each class. And like I stated earlier, there are going to be oftentimes, if it's a longer class block, breaks built into that class. There'll be opportunities for maybe they're not on camera, they're doing some independent work where they can get up and grab a snack or use the restroom. So in short, no, students won't necessarily be logged in and taking notes and listening to lecture from 8:15 until the end of the school day. We're going to try to chunk that up within classes and also with breaks in between those classes. I could answer that next question as well. Students will have different teams classes for each class that they are in. So they will be moving from teams class to teams class, which will without a doubt be clunky for the first few weeks. But there's going to be a ton of empathy on the part of our teachers in understanding that this is a new platform for so many of our students. And by week 3, week 4, I think our students are oftentimes more tech savvy than us, and they'll be waiting for the teacher in the classroom. So I think, you know, this will be a learning experience for the first few weeks, and from there, they should be just fine. Again, advisor is the best person to support all of our students with figuring out how to access Teams.
Really briefly, I just want to name, I put the website link in the chat. If you're not in the chat and you're curious about school supply, let's just go there.
Shout out to our ops team, who without a doubt is responsible for helping us out with that question. It looks like there's another question about homework. Yeah, so the recommendation is it's 30 minutes a night for each of those 3 classes. So, you know, there could be a world where potentially it is a little bit of an extended homework night. On my end, as the leader of our instructional leadership team, I am pushing our coaches to have conversations with teachers that they need to collaborate with one another, so we are not having an hour and a half worth of homework or an hour worth of homework each night. Our cap goal is about 30 minutes of homework each night at the most. And again, I think it's going to average out to roughly about 30 minutes, because there are going to be nights where there is 0 minutes of homework. And there are going to be nights where there's just a little bit more than 30. But our goal, and we've made this very clear for our entire staff, is that we are limiting the amount of homework and really doubling down on our class time and using that more strategically.
I'd like to answer Jennifer Turner's question. She wrote, we can tell our kids they need to have their cameras on, but we'll not know since we're not on the calls. Is there a way to notify us if they're not regularly on without creating more work for us? Well, don't worry about that. We have a belief that students, we know they need to develop trust with us to feel comfortable with the cameras. I'll just give you an example of how it would go. If I was a teacher teaching a class, even in advisory, and a student wasn't responding from what we call least invasives, like asking everybody to turn it on, maybe doing a reminder, maybe sending a private message to your child. And if that doesn't work one day, they're likely going to follow up one-on-one and just ask them what's going on and make sure they're okay, try to develop more rapport with them, and then give them another chance to do it. If that doesn't work out, it becomes a regular thing, they might then consult with us as deans, see, is this happening anywhere else? We'll give them some advice, we'll think about it. And then ultimately we would get you involved if we can't solve it by working just directly with your child. But we know that investing in relationships is going to be necessary for this year. And we're going to have some patience and belief that it truly is the right thing to periodically have cameras on. And we will let parents know as soon as it becomes an issue of it's regularly not happening.
Franz, there's another question in the Q&A. When will parents be told who their child's advisor is? Will parents be sent a list of other kids in their child advisory so they could contact the parents of those other kids?
Great. If most parents do at this point know who the child's advisory is, because we have had a couple outreach. I would like to know, if you want to email me directly, I will get you in contact with your advisor immediately. No problem at all. And then we never do publish the list of students. It doesn't feel right to publish the list of students' names and advisories. That's not a typical thing we would do. So once it starts, the school year starts, advisors typically do figure out ways to build a community, even if it's virtual, and you'll get that information, but you just have to wait to the first day of school at least. So I know that's probably hard, but please just wait till then. But yeah, again, Ellen just wrote, if you don't know who your child's advisory is, email me and I'll connect you right away.
Amy, there's a question in here about Wednesday do you want to talk a little bit about the Wednesday schedule for 6th grade?
Sure, I can talk about that.
The question is, can you please explain how MT and Wednesdays tutoring works for 6th graders?
Yeah, so in Wednesday's schedule, that they will still go to class. They'll have different class periods throughout the day, but that time is primarily for teachers to work with students on either kind of supporting with some skills that they may have been missing, or helping to give some extra time to support around content from the week. And so it'll be primarily an opportunity to get more individualized or small group support, but every kid should go to each class on Wednesdays.
And there's another question in here about schedules and team links from Margot Ryan. That is the question of the day. We had some initial guidance on this, and some of that changed today. In short, similar to what we did in the spring, we kind of created a master sheet where all of the teams links lived for every single class, grades 6 through 12. We are in the process of creating that again. And then from there, more than likely, we will create one sheets with all of the information for all of those links to give to students. We are also using Google Classroom this year across the board. So in each of those Google Classrooms, there will be a place where the Teams class link is posted for all students. So if they ever forget where it is, it'll be pinned in their Google Classroom, and they would just go into Google Classroom and click that link, and it'll take them straight to their class block.
And if I could just add one thing to that, our first 3 days schedule, all students, all I have to do is get to their advisory, and then their advisor will make sure they know how to get to their class. And it goes slow, where 7th and 8th graders are only going to go to period 1 on the first day. So it's going to be very manageable for them to handle that those first transitions before we go to a full day on Thursday. And then I can answer Kirsten Benavides' question about early release days. This year is more like, this schedule is now more like the original schedule. Wednesdays are, again, our early release days. And so for middle school, that means the school day is 8:15 to 2:45, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and on Wednesdays, it's 1 p.m. Amy, nod if that's correct. Yes, good. I think I got that right. So yeah.
2:45 on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 1 on Wednesday. I didn't quite hear you, so I want to make sure that was right.
Yep, that's what I said. Cool.
I'm seeing some questions about daily schedule come in. That is just like, when is my student going to know their specific daily schedule? And so I want to just acknowledge that that is something that we have scheduled in a software that is not Infinite Campus. And we are really struggling to get it into Infinite Campus, based frankly on just like the district being a little behind on getting our Infinite Campus set up for us. So hopefully by end of this week, students will be able to log in to Infinite Campus and actually see their built out schedule there. But the most important thing for Monday is that students know who their advisor is, because they will be starting with their advisor. We will actually have alternate schedules next week, and their advisor will direct them to what their schedule will be for next week, and also support them to get their hands on their actual schedule if they don't know how to log into IC and those types of things. So daily schedules should land in IC soon in Infinite Campus. So you would be able to see that through Parent Portal, and students will be able to see that as they log in. And the most important thing for us right now is to make sure you know who your advisor is for your students, so that they can connect with their advisor on Monday morning and get their schedule directly from them for next week.
Cassidy Greif, it looks like there's a question about sports and after-school activities. Is there any level of practice or anything that takes place even though games are not being played, or is everything shut down through the end of 2020?
Yes. So at the middle school level, yeah, there's no off-season training. There's no practices, open gyms, anything like that happening. Now, as far as like what Miss Barton is going to be teaching through her PE class, I can't necessarily speak on her individual units, but I do know that she often includes sport and health related like components into her curriculum. So that's where I would say middle school students will be getting any of their like sport or activity type, instruction. But yeah, from an after school athletic standpoint, there will be no middle school practice or trainings or anything like that.
That also made me want to share, there is a slight adjustment based on feedback from families in Tri-3, that it was just too challenging to try and hit all 3 electives courses every other day. And so we took that feedback and thought about kind of what schedule would make the most sense for our electives teachers who teach every kid in our building on a typical in-person school year. And so as of now with remote learning, we will have our electives courses by trimester. And so students will have music class trimester 1, for example, PE trimester 2, and then digital arts trimester 3, instead of what we would have typically had, which is a couple days a week of each course.
Shout out to Margot Ryan for trying to help us get teams working to schedule our students. Appreciate that. We're all in this together.
Yeah, I want to just double click on that and say, if you are seeing things from your end, especially as people that may also be working remotely and discovering the tricks of the trade, we are in no way pretending to know everything about this or know how to do everything the best way. And so please don't be shy about reaching out to any one of us and saying like, hey, I see you guys are doing this. I do this way, or I know that this is a thing that happens in teams that you can do. We are very much kind of in a brave new world and would love your input as we move into the year about how we can do this better and make things more smooth for students, because we know that they're going to struggle a lot with navigation, especially our new to middle school kiddos.
I would also add, just at the instructional level, like this is not lost on our teaching staff either, right? Just like we are still trying to figure all of this out. If a student turns in an assignment a day late, it's not going to be the end of the world, because we know that there are tons of outside factors that are limiting the efficacy of just turning something in. So, we definitely ask for patience, and we are more than well aware that our students will need that patience as well as we get this year kicked off. I could answer this question about work that is being turned in. In general, the question is asking, is work that is turned in going to be graded, rather than just having one data point per week? So they want to make sure that this person who's asking eSource is making sure that everything that is turned in has an opportunity to be looked at by the teacher and reviewed. I think there's a few different levels of this question that I would love to answer. Number one, we have asked our teachers to be very, very strategic in the work that they are assigning. So if a teacher is assigning homework, for instance, that homework is assigned very intentionally and very purposefully to make sure that a student is achieving mastery of a certain piece of content or has an opportunity to practice a skill. That is not just being assigned because traditionally teachers assign homework. So that mindset is one that maybe has existed in the past, but this year we are really being pushed to make sure that if we are assigning work, that it is assigned really intentionally and purposefully. We also have guidance, and I'd be happy to share some of this guidance with you if you want to reach out to me via email. For all of our teachers around how many things need to be in their gradebook at any given week throughout this remote learning experience that we are about to go through. So our teachers know, here's how many formative assessments, here's how many summative assessments, here's how many classwork assignments need to be in the gradebook. And we hold them pretty tightly to that to make sure that we have up-to-date information on how every single student on our campus is doing. And also so we could ask for support at home. If a parent doesn't know how a student is doing, they cannot support. So we are gonna really push this year to make sure our gradebook is up to date and really a useful tool for our families. Amy, there's a question
about 504s.
Yes, Ashley Morris-Hobbs or your grade level dean will be contacting you about 504 wins. So you can, if you'd like to direct a question to Ashley Morris-Hobbs, feel free to send her an email. Otherwise, she is definitely working with our grade level deans in order to reach out.
Yeah, that's a great question about attendance. Franzi, do you want to take that one or you want me to do it? You know,
Yeah,
large drop in attendance at younger kids elementary school. How are attendance numbers in DSST?
Is the question about enrollment? Is it maybe an enrollment question? Is that what you think it is?
Yeah, I can answer it both ways. So I think one, from an enrollment standpoint, we are not seeing a drop in enrollment. We continue to have wait lists for almost all of our grade levels where we enroll 612. And so we are not seeing a drop in the number of students per grade whatsoever on our campus, and I haven't seen that trend across the network either. From an attendance standpoint, we have very strong attendance through the spring. When we were in remote school, I think despite being asynchronous and having very kind of flexible guidelines for students to attend and complete work daily, we saw across the entirety of our eSchool about 80% attendance, if not a little bit higher, every single day. So we are both fully enrolled and anticipate being fully enrolled, and we'll be holding a high bar for daily attendance that I think is going to be supported by our synchronous approach this year. Amy, we've got a question. How does GT work for middle schoolers? Do students get randomly tested for the program?
Yeah, so students can come in already identified through Denver Public Schools, but also in 6th grade, all students in Denver Public Schools will take a screener assessment called the NNAT, and that helps us to begin to build a body of evidence for any students who were not previously identified. So essentially students will write advanced learning plans with their advisor. And then if you have further questions on our website, there is a link to our gifted and talented programming. I'll see if I can find it before we close out today, but it is on our programming is on our website as well.
See it again with the link in the chat. I'm going to forward this to the rest of the attendees. This is the link that Amy was referencing, it looks like.
Great. I dropped into the chat just what's on the slide, which is email addresses for folks that are here. And so if you do have questions, please, again, don't be shy about reaching out. If you're not sure who to reach out to, feel free to reach out directly to me, Ellen Curry, and I will connect you with folks. We know that in a remote space, the most important thing for us to be aware of and to be supportive of is relationships. And we decided to put all of us on this call today and spend some time introducing ourselves and talking about the things that we care about and are in charge of, because we know that it's important to put a face to the names of people that are going to be running school for your children this year. And just know that we are always here. So please reach out. We're happy to schedule calls or respond to emails or do whatever it is that you need from us to really support your family and support your students through what is just going to be a really different, at least start to the year for education. So again, really appreciate all of you joining us tonight. We will post this recording. And again, please reach out with any questions. We are super excited, frankly, to communicate with you all. And it was lovely seeing many of you at Tech Checkout. We miss seeing you in person. We deeply miss seeing your students and are just really excited, I think, especially after today with our kickoff for New Student Academy, to have everyone back next week. It brings us so much joy to work directly with your kids. So with that, we're going to close for tonight. Really, again, thank you for your time and looking forward to working with you all year and doing great things with your kids. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.